Hello there, welcome to Cabbage Patch Soap. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Laura and today I am making Syllabub soap. The soap was a suggestion by Whirly Spring Soapery, who asked me to make a high top soap. For this soap I'm going to be using titanium dioxide, which you can get at Nurture Soap. I will leave a link down below for this. I am also using High Society Green Mica, which has beautiful gold flecks. It's also from Nurture Soap, and I will leave a link below for that as well. And the fragrance is called Victorian Christmas, which basically just smells like nostalgia. So I'm going to go ahead and set these aside. I'm adding in the lye water, and this has almond milk in it. I'm just going to go ahead and mix this up. All the oils I'm using are vegan and organic, and as you can see I'm using a different pitcher this time because of course I want to make enough for the frosting as well as the soap itself. And so that's the fragrance oil going in. Now, I've never made a high top soap before, and that is because I am not good with icing bags. I've never been good at piling up icing in nice pretty little blobs on top of cakes, so I just never attempted it with soap because I assumed my results would be the same. So here I'm just pouring off a little extra on the side for the green, so that's going in there. That's the High Society. I'm going to mix it in first by hand because I wasn't sure how thick this would get, and it turned out to be really fluid, so I went ahead and stick blended it as well. Another reason I never attempted the high top soaps is because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Like the icing can deflate, or sometimes the icing will break off from the top of the cake, or sorry, off the top of the soap. It can like break in half. And also it just uses up a lot of soap batter, so you end up with a bar of soap that's almost twice the size as it normally would be, and those can be kind of hard to wrap and ship, and just other things. So I just avoided them. I think they're very pretty, but it wasn't really my thing. However, it is a fun experiment to try, and this was definitely very eye-opening, so go ahead and see what happens, even though it did not turn out very good in the end. So here is the green going in, and then I'm also pouring in some of the white. And I'm just going to scrape out this green. There was a little bit of space left in the mold, so I went ahead and added more of the white. And I'm just going to use my swirl tool here to swirl this. Now, despite how the soap might look in the end, it's still soap, it still works just fine, it smells really good, and there's no reason not to use it. So it's still wonderful soap in the end, just it didn't look the way I was hoping. And I know that if I practice with this, that it definitely will get better. So this is 100% user error, and I know that I will improve with time as I, assuming I attempt this, again in the future. I think it will get better, but this time was definitely, I believe some people would say is a disaster, but at the same time, we still ended up with a very nice bar of soap. So this is the rest of the batter going into this bag. When I'm doing this here is I'm going to let this sit to thicken up, and that way it could be used as icing on top of the soap bars. Now, unfortunately, because I did it this way, the batter cooled down and it just set up much slower, and it was sitting in this bag for quite some time. I actually had to turn the camera off because it was taking so long. So if I was to try this again in the future, I would definitely leave this in the container, or try a different method, but putting it in the bag and storing it in the bag until it was ready took far too long. So here I've just got this frosting. I think at the time I was thinking it was ready. I cut the end off so that I can pipe on, and you know, as you can see, my amazing piping skills. I'm completely, you know, doing this probably the most wrong way possible. It's coming out of the bag and it's, you know, it's holding itself up, so it looked like it might have been ready. I wasn't sure, but I went ahead with it anyway. You know, I figured if it was too loose, I could just scrape it off and wait a little bit longer and redo it, but it held up, so that was my first mistake. I definitely should have waited longer to put this batter on, and then those last few little blobs of icing were too small, so I went ahead and added a little bit more to fill in the space better. And then I just went ahead and started putting it back on top, and I wasn't staggering it properly, so it slid down. And but you know, continuing on, it again, it seemed fine, but it definitely wasn't. Definitely needed more time. And then I've got this Maya Gold from Nurture Soap to dust the tops with, and this does look really pretty. It genuinely looks like some sort of dessert, maybe like a meringue. And so it is really pretty for now. Also, if you're wondering what a Syllabub is, if you look up the Townsend's YouTube channel and look up their Syllabub recipe, it'll explain everything. It's a whipped dessert. It's delicious. So this is the soap up close. It does look really pretty right now. So we'll wait until tomorrow and see what happens. Still looks pretty, except that it's sort of flattened out. So it's no longer a high top soap. It's just a soap with a hat on. But it's a really pretty hat and it smells good. So I'm just going to set this up on the slicer and go ahead and slice this into bars. And then here's the first bar. I mean, they're cute. They've got this little like mushroom top or hat or something. It's not quite what, you know, it looked like before I let it sit overnight, but it's still really pretty. You know, it'll still work just fine, just like any bar soap, and it smells amazing. So I will probably still put these in my shop under maybe like a scratch and dent section, but you know, it doesn't look as pretty as I was hoping, but that's fine. But I wanted to go ahead and give it a second try. So here's the sample pieces. I'll cut these up and use them as samples. You see how the top overhangs quite a bit on either side. So I decided I was going to do this again. I didn't want to just leave it. So I went ahead and made up a second batch. And in this one, I forgot to put in the almond milk. So this will not have the almond milk like the first one did. But that's fine. In fact, I wonder if maybe the almond milk had something to do with, you know, why it flattened out. But I really think it was just that I didn't wait long enough. So I'm going to go ahead and do it just like before. Measure out a little bit for the green. I'm using a smaller container this time. I decided to mix up the frosting separately. Just to make sure that, you know, like as you saw before, it took a long time. It had to sit for a long time before it was ready. And I figured if I made them separately, then I could, you know, have the icing sitting by itself in its own container for a little while. Also, if you're enjoying this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel because it really helps me out. And these bars will be available December 1st in the shop, and I'll leave a link down below for that as well. So here I'm mixing up the green by hand. It was thickening up quite a bit, so I decided to not over mix it. So here I'm putting in the base for the white and tapping out air bubbles and helping the soap level, and then I add the green. And although this really thickened quite a bit, I think I like the green design, the way it turned out in this soap, better than the last one. But that could also just be because I was disappointed with the tops in the other one. And then here's the rest of that soap, the white part. I'm going to go ahead and scrape this on and then swirl it just like before with my swirl tool. And then we're just going to wait until the frosting is ready. So this is how I made the frosting. There is some titanium dioxide there in the oils. Here's a cool slow-mo of it being mixed up. This is the fragrance oil going in. And then here is the light water. I'm just going to mix this up. I want it to get really thick. And instead of putting it in the bag like I did last time, I'm actually going to let it set up in this pot, which I think really helped it firm up quickly. So here we are a few minutes later, and it's pretty thick. Now that's not solid, it looks solid, but it's not. So as you can see, when I stir it, it's definitely very fluid. It drips down the side of the bowl still, but it's much thicker than the batter was last time. So I'm going to go ahead and scrape this out into this bag. I do not have any real piping bags. That is because I don't use them ever. So there was no point in me going out and buying a bunch of piping bags for this experiment. But if you guys like the high top soaps, or if you want me to see me make more of them, I possibly could go out and purchase some. So I'm just going to cut the corner off this bag. And then here is the soap. So I'm going to go ahead and put this icing on top. Now this time, because it was thicker, or maybe it's because of how I cut the bag, I mean, I don't know, because icing is not my strong point. This icing came out a little bit more ruffled, kind of like whipping cream, especially the whipping cream you get out of like a CO2 dispenser, or the kinds that you get in a can at the grocery store. It kind of came out ruffled like that, which is really pretty. So this has a completely different look, but I think it's actually kind of nice. It also stayed up. You can see it's a little bit taller even than the last one I made. So I'm going to go ahead and dust this with the Maya Gold from Nurture Soap, just like before. And if you like this color, or the duster, the little mica pump, I'll leave links for it down below in the description where you can find those. I'm just dusting around the edges here and trying to get into all the ruffles. So this doesn't have like the smooth meringue like top to it. Instead, it's like a really pretty ruffly kind of a top, which I thought was really neat. So there's that up close. And then I'll go ahead and let this sit overnight again. And here we are the next day. And you see, this one kept most of its height. It might be my imagination. I feel like it did sink down a little, but that might just be me remembering wrong. But it's much taller than the last one. So I think this one was definitely a success. I'm just pushing it forward so it fits through the bars. this is the first one. You can see how nice and pretty this turned out. These are much taller. The design is really pretty. I'm super happy with how these turned out. I also wanted to remind everyone that I will be putting out a new sale for my shop pretty soon. Definitely sign up for the email list, which I'll put a link down below so that you can get in on that sale. I'll be emailing it to my email subscribers first, so definitely check that out. And then here are some finished photos of the soaps. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.